Hey everyone, Adam Maynard here today on this glorious September 22nd. Couldn't stay inside. Can't believe it's fall already, and can't believe it is 85 degrees and sunny in early fall here on the Connecticut shoreline. But that is not what I'm here to talk to you about today. What I'm here to talk to you about today is acceptance in relationships. And this is something that, I think I intro a lot of these videos with, this is what I've been thinking about this week. This is not just what I've been thinking about this week. This is what I've been getting a crash course in my personal life in the last probably 2 or 3 weeks or so. So this is coming straight to you from my lived experience to yours, and I hope that some of these insights and some of these reflections are valuable to you. When I say acceptance in relationship, what do I really mean by that? It means loving and accepting the person that you are engaged with, regardless of how they are kind of relating or reflecting or meeting you where you are and how they relate back to you. That can be a tremendous challenge. We look to our relationships for a lot of the joy, meaning, fulfillment, engagement, kind of all that stimulation we look for in our day-to-day lives. A lot of that comes from our relationships with other people, and a lot of the lessons we learn as well come from the relationships that we have with other people. So we have a lot invested in how other people treat us back in relation to how we treat them. And we can kind of get that twisted sometimes, or we can be tempted to kind of overreach on the unstated terms of that relationship as a means of kind of meeting our own expectations instead of accepting and understanding that things are the way they are, that person is the way they are, and not trying to change them. So why can that be so painful sometimes? It can be not only painful, but frustrating, confusing, leads to a lot of conflict, because when you approach relationships with an agenda, you're kind of inherently invalidating the position of the other person. You are inherently saying, what my needs are here are more important than yours, or I need to get my needs met here and you need to meet them in the way that I need you to meet them, or we're going to have real trouble. And you can arrive at that situation by kind of misunderstanding the kind of terms of the relationship, by not taking the responsibility for meeting your own needs first. Something can shift or change in a relationship through the course of life where, something that was kind of freely given between people at one point is, for whatever reason changed, and the terms shift, and something you were getting from that person before you're not getting in the present moment. Or, in the same way, something about you has changed. Something about you is different. You're not willing to maybe engage in kind of that bargain, or that bartering of, I'll scratch my back, you scratch yours, in the kind of emotional, metaphysical sense, because you have an awareness of how that might not be healthy to engage in that any longer, whether it's a codependent relationship, or whether it's an abusive relationship, or whether it's, something that you realize on the surface looks okay, but it leaves you feeling like that may not be the healthiest way of relating, not only to that person, but to any of the people in your lives. So this is kind of what I've really been encountering in the last couple of weeks. It's been difficult as I've been growing in kind of my own understanding of myself, as I've been taking more responsibility for my own emotions, my own feelings, my own behaviors, my own triggers, my own stuff, my own baggage, to kind of just observe how some of the frankly codependent relationships, I have a codependent history or codependent patterning, how the people who I have had codependent relationships with in the past haven't reacted so smoothly to me, not severing that tie, but for me setting clearer boundaries, for me communicating myself a little more clearly, for me not wanting to engage in that tacit, I'll scratch your emotional back if you scratch mine, kind of conditional way of relating to one another, because that's really what what this can be about. It can be about kind of a conditional love that says, I will treat you with love and respect and kindness and generosity if you treat me with love and respect and kindness and generosity. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I think we want to be able to treat the people in our lives with love and kindness and respect and generosity. It's that if we are doing so from a place of feeling like we need to, or we won't get that from the other person, that's when we really get into tricky waters. That's when we really start to question. In one of my last videos, I talked a lot about how intentionality is everything. That's when we really have to start questioning our intention behind our actions. Are we doing things out of the free, uninhibited generosity of our hearts, or are we doing things because we feel like if we don't, then we're not going to get the love that we want, and we're not going to get the acceptance that we want from the other person? So this is really tough, at least for me. It's something that's been pretty new, and I think if there's something that I've been doing, or if there's a lesson or something that I've really been working on, is that sometimes you do come, I'm kind of the person who likes to work on things, right? Who likes to be in the trenches, to roll up their sleeves with the emotional stuff and really kind of problem solve and communicate and get down to the bottom of things. And sometimes when where you're at is incongruent or incompatible with where someone else is, and they're not kind of engaging in the same level of introspection or communication, or the lesson that I'm learning is that sometimes the most love you can give that person in that moment is to accept them for not only who they are, but where they are, what they're capable of giving in that moment, and not try and force them into a place where they're not ready to be for whatever reason, for their own timeline. Because that's really where conflict arises, when people are trying to, even with the best of intentions, get someone to be a way that they are not naturally or intentionally trying to be. And you kind of can sense what that feels like when you're trying to, like, coerce is maybe too strong or too kind of murky a word, but when you're trying to convince someone to be otherwise than they are naturally being towards you. And sometimes, and this has been key for me, is that sometimes accepting them and loving them for who they are in that moment means not interacting with them as much. It means giving them space. It means letting them be, in the truest sense of the word, letting them be who they are. If it's too difficult for you where you're at, for whatever reason, to kind of be exposed to the way of thinking, the patterning of theirs, if it's an abusive or a codependent relationship, certainly, like, to be kind of reinserted into that way of relating that you kind of just extracted yourself from in an emotional way, where you kind of have a greater awareness now for how that may not be the healthiest way of behaving. That that's okay, and letting them figure it out on their own time, if they're meant to figure it out, if they want to figure it out, and kind of figuring out how to get those free, uninhibited emotions and needs met by other sources in your life, first and foremost from yourself, from the other communities that you're a part of, from other relationships that you have, from your relationship to your own kind of inner work and inner strength. That I think really has been key for me in kind of really, really accepting the writing on the wall. For people I've been tempted to try and change and work things out with, and have found myself in pretty intractable places for the simple reason that the other person isn't necessarily willing to meet me where I am. So I've been meeting myself where I am, and I'm also kind of blessing them and leaving them to their own devices and to their own behavior, because that's what they need right now, and I don't want to presume to know what's best for them when that's kind of exactly the definition of having an agenda for someone else. So know this is a little bit longer video than I've put out lately, but I think that this is a really important topic and one that merits pretty lengthy discussion. I'll probably be putting out some more thoughts on this in the coming weeks. This is something that I think has been pretty monumental for me, and I hope it's been enlightening for you. Would love to field any questions that you have about this pattern. How's it showing up in your life? What have been the keys for you to accept the people in your life that you really have struggled with and have faced challenge with? Love to have that discussion. Please reach out via social media, email, website, whatever it may be, comments below, and look forward to talking to you next time. Take care and enjoy this beautiful day.